Hello beautiful people, today I'm gonna show you how to start a garden from scratch. Even though I'm in Mexico, it's pretty much the same thing as when I was in Quebec, Canada. It's earth, grass, sunlight, local weeds, ants, grasshoppers, and so on. The main difference is I benefit of way better climate here. This is the area I chose to create this new garden of abundance. The owner told me that there was a nice metal greenhouse near the end of the property. But I didn't think that this place would be a good area to be growing stuff for multiple reasons. Even if the greenhouse could have helped me in various ways, I know it would have caused a lot of problems. Not enough sun during the day, and I really dislike these brick structures that act as garden beds. They can't drain, so when there's a big rain, it becomes a pool that can drown your plants on top of needing a ton of soil to fill them up. Another reason I didn't want to do it here was because it's too far from the house. I don't want to be walking 200 feet to get 3 leaves of basil. The area I chose for the garden is way better. And on top of being very close of a gravity-fed water source. Who said gravity didn't give good pressure? And I'll be able to see its evolution from my kitchen window while I'm doing the dishes. So the tools I used for this were the DeWalt laser, the measuring thing that comes with it that I mounted on a bamboo stick marked by hand, cause no way I'm paying $100 for a stick with numbers on it. Some little bamboo sticks that will act as field flags, and a magnificent pickaxe. This job could also be done with other tools, or only with your eyes. But I really enjoy the precision of the laser. Our eyes often plays tricks on us with topography. I wanted to do 4 terraces for this section. I really enjoy using slope for designing new garden beds. And if you have limited space, using these slope parts will add a lot of growing space because most people would rather leave them alone than using them. I found the rocks for the terraces in the forest part of the land near the greenhouse. I was pleasantly surprised to find a huge pile of volcanic rocks that I could use to build the terraces and hold the soil. What a precious resource. I then started to fluff up the soil with my pickaxe. Pretty much everywhere the soil was not too bad but still had a huge clay content. I found some old destroyed bags near the end of the property. Even though the bags were useless, the soil inside was in very good shape with nice texture that could help with the structure of my clayey soil. And I also added a bit of compost that I bought from a young local company for the quarter of the price that what you'd get at Home Depot, for way better compost. What I'm looking to achieve with this new soil is to help the structure of the existing clay soil. The first year of creating a garden, you have to be realistic with your expectations. And it's going to be a bit more work getting all the weeds out during the year. Even though the pickaxe did a great job, there's still a lot of roots and seeds in the soil that will manifest themselves eventually. I left on purpose some grass hanging out and kept some roots underneath the wall structure just to keep it from falling down. Roots are the strongest element for keeping your soil together and holding it if you want to put small infrastructure on it, like in this example. Okay, I wouldn't build a house on top of roots, but for something like this, I would trust roots inside the soil way more than pounded sand or gravel. I had the opportunity to get help from 2 of my friends for the flatter part of the garden. It's really nice to be able to do this step with friends because it adds a social touch while pounding away at dirt. In fact, there was not only my 2 friends helping, we had extra uninvited helpers during the afternoon. Even if they're cute, this type of visit could cause massive damage in an established garden. 10 minutes of their presence could potentially destroy months of hard work. Maybe you guys have pests like ants or grasshoppers in your garden. Well, I have fighting goats, but at this age it's still very cute. But on the other hand, I would really be wary of the dad. The next day I continued working on the soil, but I took the decision to take down a huge ant nest that was right here. After that, I was forced to stop because the ants were really pissed off with my decision. The war between the ants and me lasted 2 days. I dug as deep as I could while getting bitten like crazy, and I drowned the ant colony for 2 days until they were gone. It left a huge crater in the ground. And that made me ponder, is there ants on the moon? The good part about this is that during the days I had my battle against the ants, it rained quite a lot, and it gave me the opportunity to observe the flow and patterns of water and of topography near the garden. The water carved the path through the soil and left a clear sign of where the water wanted to enter the garden naturally. This would be the perfect place to harvest rainwater for the pond I wanted to make. I'll show you all the pond creation process in the next video. A process that had a good dose of drama, let's say. I went back near the metallic greenhouse structure, and to my surprise, I found some old tiles that they used to build the roofs of all the buildings on the property. And they were still in very good shape. Bingo! This will be perfect to make the small ditches for the water to channel through the garden and flow to the future pond and then come back out at the back of the garden where there was that evil ant nest. What I also like about this is that it makes clear separations for the new beds and also acts like small terraces that makes everything more level. I also made a second entry point for water catchment to fill up the future pond. And on the first rain after making those, I noticed that the system seemed to be working quite well. And with all these magnificent future harvests ahead, we need to set up a protection system for the garden and start building some nice cute little fences. Just my luck, I just happen to have about 36 million bamboos waiting to become a fence for my garden.
Like a garden, fenced for the very first time. Like a garden.
I started by planting 4 wood stakes that I got from a tree that had fallen on a property road and that was blocking our way. I think one of the things I like the most in this world is transforming problems into solutions. Usually the catalyst to go from one to another is just a bit of effort, and your problem suddenly becomes a useful part in an asset that provides you abundance and security. To make my long strips of bamboo, I just split the pieces in 2 with a machete following the grain of the wood. Usually, the fibers are very well aligned so that you can cleanly split the pieces very accurately, except if the tree really grew kind of crooked. I then started to prepare the garden beds of the top section. I wanted a shape that could resemble a bit of horseshoe, where the central passage is like the empty part between the 2 sides of the horseshoe. I added to the soil some dead leaves, some soil I had found in those destroyed bags, and some compost from that local company. When I found big chunks of clay, I put them aside because getting rid of them really helps the soil structure in a rapid way, leaving you with a more friable and drainable soil. The slope section of the garden I prepared 2 weeks ago was ready to be sown with seeds. This one will be for mustard greens. After only 2 weeks, there was already weeds coming out of the ground. That's the best time to pull them out because they still have a weak and young root system that is easily removable. That is mainly the reason why I like to let a garden bed chill a bit for a couple of weeks before planting to let the garden bed try and fight what I just did. If you sow something immediately after preparing the soil, you will have to pull out weeds while your tender seedlings are coming out, and you run the risk of uprooting them or damaging them in the process. A garden is never a real garden without a vertical structure. So why not build a teepee with some bamboo while we're at it? It's actually bamboos that are clumping out of the soil on our side of the wall. So it's basically free bamboo. Not very easy to manage though, because every bamboo tree is approximately 40 feet long. The advantage about bamboo though is that it's quite light because all the interior of the tree is hollow. Makes me think, I should do myself a didgeridoo. I decided to cut some 8 feet pieces of bamboo for the 4 sides of the structure of the teepee. After a bit of struggling of trying to put them all together, I made some other shorter pieces to solidify the whole structure at the base, just so the damn thing doesn't fall on me every 15 seconds. Then I just cut out some other pieces and assembled them in a kind of an X pattern, just to guide the plants better towards the top. It goes so fast splitting the bamboo with the machete to do the slats. You can see that it takes me way more time to screw them than to actually make them. On certain joints, I joined the bamboo together with screws, but when the joints were not matching well, I drilled one hole in each slat and then binded them together with a metal wire by passing it through the two holes and then tightening it with pliers. It's not rare that when I'm working on something that I like or that I'm very focused on, I don't see time go by and I work until the sun sets. The next day it was time to transplant some plants I already had for a while, but I just didn't have anywhere to put them. They were patiently waiting for me in that metal greenhouse to get their moment to shine in the garden. I bought most of these plants and seeds in an online nursery that apparently had a great reputation. But I was really disappointed with the quality of their customer service and their products. If I had to do it again, I would start most of the things myself by seed, or just go in a local nursery and choose plants myself. But hey, we all learn from our mistakes. Nonetheless, it gave me the opportunity to work with plants I wasn't really familiar with, like malanga, sagu, jicama, and many more. I also put some carrot and beet seeds on one of the levels of the terrace, and a small mound for some melons. Near the pond, I prepared a section to transplant some ginger I had started to grow from organic bulbs a couple of months ago. I thought it was a really cute area to put it, just near my chill spot where I sometimes come to sit in the shade to relax. One of the only things left to do is to put a bit of mulch on top of certain sections, which will be a good opportunity to use my machete and make the experience highly Mexican, with a certain Asian twist. The main goal of this light mulch is only to slow down the drying of the soil on sunny days, and also to keep the seeds and soil in place while there's big rains. You don't want to put too much mulch here, or else it's never going to dry up in the rainy season. I had some sections of the gardens that had major problems during heavy rains, so I had to do a little stone wall on the slope section of the entrance because too much water was falling in the gardens. What I did is I just lifted the existing grass with a shovel and shoved some rocks underneath. That way I could preserve the roots and the system would be resilient within a couple of days. I needed to put more material into the pathway and rocks over it to prevent water from coming in. In the end, I'm quite happy of how the garden turned out. I'm really anxious to see how it's going to perform in the next growing season. So I hope this video inspired you to make your own garden at home. In the next video, I'll be talking about the pond creation and its process. But in the meantime, if you want to binge at more content, you can do it by clicking here.